Good morning. Welcome to the Long Live Alternative Parties podcast. Free Press Media Press Inc., an alternative parties books publisher, sponsors this podcast. I'm Andrew Bouchard.
Greetings.
Hello.
Hi. Welcome to the Long Live Alternative Parties podcast.
Good to be here.
We're glad to have you, friends. Today we have Micah Benjamin Faulkner of the Pizza Party. So welcome.
Well, thanks a bunch. What's on your mind today?
I would like to get started by having you kindly give an introduction to who you are as a person, your background, a brief biographical sketch.
Sure. I'm kind of a little nobody. I live here in central Indiana. I'm a tattoo artist by trade these days, but I was also an English teacher in a former life. I've pursued different careers in food service and art, the arts. I was a comic book artist at one point in time. So I've done a fair amount of stuff. I'm a father. I got a little boy named Wolf, who's 11 years old now, and a beautiful wife named Shalene. We live pretty happy lives out here in the suburbs of Indianapolis. She's a school teacher. And that's about it.
All right. So how did you start the Pizza Party?
Well, it was pretty strange. A few years ago, I was very stressed out about the political culture in our nation. Trumpism had seemed to run roughshod over the conservative movement. I didn't see people seeing eye to eye on even basic ideas. Everything was being turned in the various media pools into bladed weapons, no matter what it was. And it was pretty toxic, and it was making me, I had a ton of anxiety. I was literally obsessing on it. I think a lot of us were, and a lot of us still are. And then I came across this video online. It went somewhat viral of these two men getting into a fight on the street. And I believe it was Portugal, but these two guys get into a fist fight, and a third guy who's eating pizza in the restaurant right next door to this runs out with a slice of pizza and intervenes and offers the two guys a slice of pizza. He's like, just eat this pizza and stop fighting. And they're like, okay. And then they wander off. And I was like, there's something right in that. There's some epiphany built into that sort of like third party stepping in and cracking the fight in half in some way. And symbolically for me, it was this idea that like we can hate each other, about a lot of stuff, but there are common grounds. Like we all kind of like pizza. And so if we could maximize that idea, if we could take that and carry it to as many things as we could to become a new future, that would be fantastic. So it seeded with that. And then, I had kind of a fever dream one night, woke up next day, and I had a large part of this idea of this pizza party born whole in my mind. When I woke up, I was like, why not start a party? Could I start a party? Would people care? So I did. I wrote up kind of all my main ideas about what it would be, published those on, bought a website for cheap, put that up there, and started promoting it online and talking to people about it. People seemed mostly friendly to the idea, but I didn't seem to chip away much at any sort of partisan divide. People didn't literally come join or come and support it. And after a while, once the election was over, it seemed like a lot of good energy after bad. So I basically abandoned the project because there was nobody really engaging. And that's probably mostly my fault. I know basically nothing about that kind of organizing or, rallying people. So I gave it maybe a year or two's worth of energy, and then was like, well, I need to get back to doing what I do know how to do, which is, raising my kid and doing my job and so on. So.
I see. That's interesting. So you said you drew up a list of ideas. What's in the Pizza Party platform?
Well, so the core idea is first off, that we should all agree that we want reasonable leadership. Turns out that that's an assumption that holds water, but I assume that everybody would want reasonable leadership, that we all want to have an awesome America, and that everybody should be included. You know, the philosophy on it is an inclusive one. So anybody who's a Republican, a Democrat, a Libertarian, Green parties, whatever, should all find common ground in here. And so along with that comes a principle of finding the things that we can agree on, working on for the time being, and the wedge issues that cause so much vitriol, we just put pause on those. You know, for example, a great wedge issue that for decades now has been something that fires people up is the abortion topic. The pizza party makes no claim or statement about their position on the abortion issue. The stance of the pizza party is whatever is on the books should stay on the books for now. It should not be dealt with in any new way for the coming years until we can solve some of these other problems, and it can be returned to later. And of course, it's also a party of inclusion in the sense of we are not asking you to leave your party to join this party. It would be almost like dual citizenship. So by saying that you're a member of the pizza party, you would not be discarding, say, being a Democrat or a Republican. You would still have your allegiance to your party and follow that party's priorities. You would also just be indicating that this idea of common ground and reasonableness is a priority of yours by joining it.
I see. So is vegan pizza okay for you?
I am okay with vegan pizza. I think I've actually been very surprised with how good the cauliflower pizzas I've come across are. I was very skeptical. And then when I came across some of them, they were the quality of the crispiness of the crust is every bit as good as a wheat pizza. So I'm okay with a vegan pizza. And in fact, I'd argue that most of the flavor variety that comes in pizzas really comes from the vegetable choices.
Oh, interesting. So do you have a favorite chain, or you don't play favorites?
Myself, of course I do, but as the pizza party plays no favorites. One of the kind of quirky nodes of the platform is this idea that all Americans deserve good pizza. And where this came from was me kind of like musing about this idea and tossing around ideas with this party idea that I was coming with. I had a lot of latitude, you know, I didn't have anybody to conflict with really on it. And there's one of the constant sort of drum beats that we've heard in the last, especially 6 years, but probably 15, 20 years, is this concept of socialism and what it means. And the reality is most people on any side of the fence knows very little about what socialism really means. The conservative movement has done a very good job of branding it as something like a code word for badness or evil or something. But I was like, we've not really tried any socialism in America. So I was like, what if we tried it with something that's low stakes, like pizza? What if we literally socialized pizza in some sense and came up with a mandate federally that said all communities deserve good pizza? And so we would come up with a baseline of that, and we'd say, okay, well, your community maybe has terrible pizza in it. This is true for me. I live in Indiana, and Indiana is pretty famously notorious for its terrible pizza. So we as a community here out in this suburb, we could file a complaint about how we lack good pizza in our community, and the federal government would send in a task force of pizza specialists that would find the worst pizza chain in the area, worst pizza outlet in the area, and then come in, diagnose, analyze, and then tutor them on how to create high quality pizza and what would be best for the brand in their community. How do they do market research? How do they find out what their community would really want? Give them that advice so that they can deliver high quality pizza, which would choose favorites for sure. And it would definitely boost that low quality pizza place up into a higher ranks in its community. And that would do literally what the argument for socialism does in a very, very small stakes way. And then we could really see if the ideas do pan out in some non-totalitarian approach. And if they didn't like it, they could always walk away and just go back to making the pizza the way they always did. So it started off as kind of a goofy idea that started to make a lot more sense as it went on in my mind. So that's one of the first principles in the platform. You know, if you look through our platform for the party, the very first plank after the preamble is good pizza for all. But if you go up on the website, I've got a whole list of the topics and that the pizza party addresses and their strategies for it, and the ones that the pizza party does not address. For example, wedge issues.
So what's the web address for your party platform?
It's if you go on thepizzaparty.org, and the is part of it. So thepizzaparty.org. It's not a huge website. There's only a few pages on it. There's a philosophy page that breaks down what I explained before. And then the platform, which is a longish document that outlines the basic principles that I think anybody in any party could probably get on board with. And it's up for change. You know, if people were to really engage with the party like I'd hope they would, I assume that would change over time. And there was a blog that I ran for a while, and then I stopped maintaining it because I wasn't getting traffic and it cost money. And so you'll see a blog link, but it doesn't really lead anywhere anymore. I've got those essays saved on a hard drive, but I wasn't getting the foot traffic through my website. So,
all right.
But yeah, it's thepizzaparty.org.
Thepizzaparty.org?
Yes.
Okay. We can direct people there. So do you have any book recommendations for our audience?
Book recommendations? Oh, tons. About governance or just in general?
Whatever you like.
Oh, well, I was an English teacher for a number of years, so I do have a lot of opinions about books. I think probably my go-to recommendation, if you're looking for a book to read on vacation, I always recommend reading Yann Martel's Life of Pi. It's super fun for pretty much all ages, a lot of great information in it, and it's got a lot of really advanced ideas about what do we mean by true and false and real and reality and all that kind of stuff. It's really, really fun. They made a not very good movie out of it, but definitely the book is a fun read and short. If you're looking for something insightful in terms of our governance, I think the Scarlet Letter is likely the great American novel. It's got a really sort of cynical angle on it, but it early on lays out a lot of the pitfalls of our republic, things that early on even he could see, that people could see were baked into this idea of America. We had a lot of great ideas and they didn't get very far because the institutions that were coupled with monarchism and really even feudalism had been packaged in by the identities that came there in the beginning of the nation. And so it's got a lot of dark indictments about our country and about the church too, but it is beautifully written and there's a lot of really, really neat ideas in it. It is very hard to read though. The Lexile score on it is very high. It's borderline child abuse to make high schoolers read it, I think, but it is fantastic. What other great books are there? I think people really reading Plato's Republic is probably a good idea so that they know where the idea of a republic even started. It's somewhat farcical. There's a lot of sort of like thumbing of the nose in it when he came up with the idea. So I think that's probably a good idea for people to read. I feel like most people don't really read it. I think most people read just like the allegory of the cave and that's all they get. And so they kind of think that's what it is. There's a lot more going on in it, which I think is pretty interesting. I think that it's not a bad idea to read Machiavelli's The Prince, just so you can, I think it's hard for most of us to really visualize the cynicism of some of our leaders on any side. There are people that are just have really cynical ideas about what it means to be in government. And I think those ideas are really well outlined in the prints, so you know what you're dealing with. Hopefully people wouldn't take it as a guidebook, though I suspect some sometimes do. But it's really pretty great. And then I also would say, from the other side of the pond, I would argue that the reading the Confucian Analects is probably a really nice idea. His ideas about the relationship between families and the government and how those parallel, and how our humanity has built its governments out of the family, there's some really interesting wisdom in there that can be found. I could probably babble like this for a long time, but that'll be my short list.
All right, that sounds good. So how can our audience support you? Is there anything you need that people can help you with?
Oh, I mean, I'm not really actively doing anything with the party right now. If a bunch of people decided that they wanted to, they could reach out to me. I'm pretty easy to find. I'm Micah Faulkner. So if you Google me, there's not a whole lot of us around. I tattoo in Indianapolis. So if you want to support me directly, come get a tattoo. If you want art commissions, hit me up. I do art commissions as well. But if they wanted to take off with this thing, it's not really meant to be my thing. It was meant to be sort of our thing. So if a bunch of people latched onto it and they wanted to get into it, I still believe in all the ideas in it. And I'd be willing to dialogue with people. Probably the best way would be to find me up on my actual professional website and email me through that. So if you go up to untitled-ink.com, that's where I tattoo out of, and there's an email me link there that you could do. But if you Google me, I'm easy to find. I've got web presence. I'm on all the different platforms, either arguing with people about stuff, or, promoting my tattoos, or just looking at pictures and stuff. So
sounds good. So we thank you for coming on to our podcast today, and we wish you all the best in all your endeavors. May everything go well for your family. May everything go great for you.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Have yourself a great day.
You do the same. Thank you.
Bye now.